Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
All right, now we're good to go. All right, actually, let's go to the title here. Welcome once again to another edition of Learn Photography with Duck. I am your host, Duck, and today's episode is our general Q&A. So hopefully you guys have questions for me to, hopefully help you out. And before we get into the questions, I just want to let you guys know that next week, this time, next Monday, I'm going to be doing a special presentation on how to work with models. All right, my presentation is geared towards both photographers and for models. And this is an answer to some polling that I did in the Connecticut Photographers, Makeup Artists, and Models group on Facebook. We have several members from the local area that are active on that group, and I was seeing some things that just kind of like rubbed me the wrong way as far as how people were interacting, photographers interacting with models, and not very professional. So I thought it'd be good to get some kind of program together that will kind of guide some of these people along the right path so that they avoid some of the mistakes. And so anyhow, if you work with models or if you work with people in general and want to know how to guide them in front of your camera, it might be beneficial for you. So hopefully you'll join me next Monday at 6:30 for that special presentation. So anyhow, that's that for that. Before we get into answering your questions, I just want to give a short little talk about another topic that I noticed online that was of interest. And that is photographing. Here, actually, let me turn this off. That is photographing in public places, and not just a casual, I'm a tourist type photography. This is for photographing for pay, or I should probably clarify that a little bit more. Photographing clients, whether it's a trade for or for pay. But anytime that you go into a public space with lights or cameras, and you as a photographer are taking photos of a family or of a model, and there's posing and there's composition and that general interaction between photographer and model, you have to be aware of what the regulations are in regards to public photography of that nature in these public spaces. Now, if you're there as a casual visitor and you want to take pictures of the birds and the flowers and the trees, and the public space allows you to take photos, then by all means. What happens is the moment you cross over to what they consider a commercial photography attitude, the rules tend to change. A lot of places will have certain regulations in place saying, hey, if you're going to photograph for commercial, in a commercial venture, you need to get a permit. All right. And the conversation was, well, why do I need to get a permit to shoot in a public park when everybody else can photograph willy-nilly? Well, the situations are different. Yes, they allow public photography for your own personal use. The minute it crosses over into commercial use, and that is where you are making money, and I'm going to use the term making money, although I understand that some people aren't charging a monetary value, but there is some kind of exchange. But it's a commercial exchange. As soon as there's a commercial exchange, the rules are different. And these public spaces need to enforce those rules. Now, a lot of places usually overlook it, and they have in the past. But unfortunately, with COVID, the situations have changed. And a lot of places that used to turn a blind eye are now saying, hey, we need to enforce these regulations. If you're going to photograph in a commercial setting, you need to pull a permit. And that's where a lot of people were having problems with. And they were trying to figure out why all of a sudden. Well, you have to understand the nature of the end results. And this goes a little bit into liability, and it goes into licensing. Now, you have to understand that even though a lot of these parks are considered public, meaning you can go and enjoy because you as a taxpayer pay for it, all right? You are enjoying it at the expense of the city. The moment you enter into a commercial venture, all right, you are profiting from a public space, and that changes the rules altogether. So yes.
When you talk about commercial, let's say I'm a photographer and I'm doing a wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and the wedding is for the use of the couple, but as far as commercial, it's only for the couple and their friends. I'm not doing a show, I'm not doing a whatever. Does doing a wedding or a prom picture fall under the same thing you're talking about with commercial?
Yeah, basically anytime somebody hires you to be a photographer for somebody else, all right, whether you're taking senior photos or wedding photos or maybe an engagement shot, whatever the case is, all right. And this is where it kind of gets a little bit into the gray area, because money doesn't necessarily need to be exchanged in order for it to be classified as a commercial venture. All right. If you are a professional photographer or a semi-professional photographer or a photographer who occasionally makes money from your photography and you promote as such, all right, when you're in that situation, you are entering the situation as a commercial photographer. Okay. And the rules change for commerce in public places. All right. So if you're just there with your family, you got your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad, whoever, and you're taking some pictures of them for your own, it's not a commercial situation. It's a private situation. Now, as soon as you start taking pictures, even if it's your friend and you're doing it for free, but you're going to be promoting it on your own site, for to potentially get other clients, that's a commercial venture. All right. And like I said, the lines get kind of gray in this respect. So a lot of places may have different rules for the general public and commercial photographers. Now, you can argue it. All right. If somebody approaches you and says, hey, if you're going to be photographing, that model, you need to pull a permit. You need to have a permit. You know, you can try to argue, and it says, well, I'm not making, this is not a paid job, I'm not doing it, all right? But if it looks commercial, they may say, it doesn't matter, you need to pull a permit, okay? And a lot of people are having issues with that aspect of it, okay? Because a lot of photographers who are not commercial photographers that are doing commercial work, all right, let me back that up and explain that, all right? I'm a commercial photographer. Huh? What's that? I'm sorry.
The definition of commercial is also up for debate, or not up for debate, but it has to be described or.
Yes. And that's where a lot of ambiguity lies, because, all right, so me being a commercial photographer, I sell my service to clients for monetary gain, all right? So in order for me to stay in business, I need to charge my clients a fee to take their photos, all right? So when I enter into a contract with my client, I am profiting, okay? So if I take that scenario and place it into a public space, I am now profiting on public land. A public land that is paid for by the public. And a lot of places have restrictions on that, okay? Now, the ambiguity lies where somebody who is not gaining some kind of monetary gain, they're not entering into a monetary contract with the person they're photographing. However, from all intents and purposes, it looks like a commercial photo shoot. A lot of places don't see the differences. They just look at you as a commercial photographer taking a photo of a client. And in that case, they may approach you and say, hey, you need to get a license, you need to get a permit for the use of the photography of the space for your photography. And that's where a lot of people have been having issues, okay? So while a lot of public spaces don't require a permit, some places do. And typically there is an underlying reason for it. And it could be insurance reasons. It could be public safety reasons. It could be just a matter of controlling who is accessing the area for the photography. Because when you're going in as a professional photographer photographing a model, you are pretty much hijacking that area specifically for that shoot. And it doesn't allow the general public to be able to enjoy it at their will. So that's how they look at it. So in order for them to justify to the rest of the public why you are hogging that space, they can say, well, they have permission to hog that space because they went through the proper channels in order to obtain a permit to hold that space and utilize that space. Now, typically, this is reserved to the more common types of photography, which is the wedding photography. So, for example, those of you who are in the Hartford area, you're probably well aware that Elizabeth Park is very famous for being a go-to location for photographers. And they are very welcoming of photographers of all kinds. However, if you're going to do anything wedding related, you need to go through the proper channels and pull a permit in order to utilize their space for that purpose. All right. So like I said, it could be insurance liability. It could be just to reserve the space for you, but it also has to deal with maintenance. All right. All these parks, even though they're public parks, they are still maintained by a crew of people who have to come in and clean up after the public. So if you're utilizing that space and making a profit, they kind of look at it as, hey, you know, we are doing all the work of cleaning up after these people who are abusing the system, making a profit, and, you know, we're working here cleaning up after them. You know, so yeah, it's a weird mentality, but if you look at it, these parks have to pay their employees. All right, so it's unfair for you to go in and kind of hijack a section of the park that they have to maintain for your own use without them seeing some kind of benefit from it. Okay, it's just like, for example, your next door neighbor comes and he borrows your car without your permission, goes on a joyride, goes down to the store, comes back, drops it off back into your parking space with the gas tank empty, and doesn't give you a dime for it. How would you feel? You'd be pretty upset. You know, first of all, you used it without permission, and then I now have to go and pay for the gas that you used. Well, it's kind of the same thing with the use of public land. They're putting in the effort and the maintenance and the upkeep and the cleanup, you know, for the general public to use. And if you go ahead and hijack a portion of it, it prevents other people from enjoying it. They get pissed off because you're taking up space. They can't enjoy it properly. They got to dance around you. And it just, you know, complicates things. So not all places require a permit, but if you're going to go there with the express purpose of photographing for profit or photographing, you know, not necessarily for monetary profit. It could be, well, you know, I'm shooting, you know, a portfolio piece. I'm not making any money off that photo shoot. Not directly, but indirectly, because you're using the results of that photo shoot to promote additional work. You are, in an essence, profiting from it. So if there's any kind of profit to be made from a photo shoot, you should be cognizant of the fact that the place may require a permit for you to be there in that capacity. So always go and check out, you know, the website to the place that you're looking to photograph. See what kind of restrictions they may have on commercial photography. All right, not too many places have those restrictions, but there are certain places that do. And in order to avoid getting into trouble, you know, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay. So anyhow, I thought I'd just point that out because a lot of people were complaining that because it's a public space, they can do whatever they want with it, and it just isn't the case. So anyhow, hopefully that little bit of information was worth it. So anyhow, but we're here.
If they're asking you to pull a permit, I would imagine they're also going to ask you to reach into your wallet for a permit.
Typically, yeah. Most permits are very inexpensive, though. You know, it could be, you know, $10. You know, and basically they're just looking at it as a well, right now, you know, as a way of generating money because of COVID. Okay, funds are very low. Funds are being used elsewhere because, you know, small businesses are struggling. So there's a big chunk of money that are going to the small businesses, and that's being taken away from other places. All right. So a lot of these parks are saying, hey, you know, we've turned a blind eye to it in the past, but now we can't afford to. let's start enforcing these regulations. And that's where people are getting upset. Okay. There's been a, I can't even remember the name of the park. This one photographer says, I go there all the time. They've never harassed me. Now all of a sudden they're asking me I have to pull a permit. I says, well, hey, consider yourself lucky that in the past they've never bothered you. But more than likely, they've had that policy in place. You just never knew about it or didn't care about it. And they probably didn't care about enforcing it. But now because the rules have changed economically, they're enforcing them. So, but yeah, but most licenses or most permits are, $10. I know Elizabeth Park is like $35, or something like that. Last time I checked, the other thing is a lot of these quote unquote public places aren't really public. They're actually privately maintained, and at that point, they can lay out whatever regulations they want in regards to photography. And,
like
yeah, I can barely hear you. Who?
Hopefully, they're gonna be all right with that, they test before they even, come into, back in country again. So hopefully they're gonna be all right, they don't have to quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah. Who was that talking? Because you were very, very muffled.
May not have intended for us to hear.
Yeah, I think so. Doug, just two things that I've witnessed or what happened to me. A film teacher at Wesleyan once told me she's very strict with her students about seeking permits before doing outdoor shoots, even though it's for educational, and she is very strict about this. Another thing, because of something that happened with me when I ran an event from Connecticut 6 years ago, is I would at least call the police department to see if it was okay to go there at a certain time. Because we went to a park after dark and staked it out ahead of time, and somebody working on a community garden there said, oh, this place closed, you can be here till 9 o'clock at night. Well, that wasn't true, and this is November. Somebody came in and she said, you're not supposed to be here. Next thing I knew, 3 cop cars came in. And so I simply photography geek, meaning, oh, this guy's an idiot, he's harnessed. I said, oh, just be here for an hour. He said, okay, an hour, that's it. You got to ask permission. So I would at least ask permission next time. And this is when Kathy was running the group. And so I wrote to her the next day and I apologized. This is what happened. And she says, that sounds like something Vicky would have done. Poor Vicky.
Yeah. Yeah, again, especially if you're going to be there after hours. A lot of places will make concessions for photographers, outside of the regular working hours. But what I have noticed is that a lot of the times, the majority of the reason why they require a permit is for liability. A lot of times photographers come in with a bunch of equipment, and you have to be aware that, if somebody trips on your equipment, they may not necessarily sue you. They may sue the park. All right. So things, it could be for liability's sake. I know, for example, in New York City, if you want to use a tripod and lights, well, not necessarily a tripod, but if you want to use lights and light stands out in the public street, you need to have a permit. All right. You can't walk out there, put a light stand, even if it's battery operated. All right. You can't put a light stand down on the sidewalk, place somebody in front of it, and start taking pictures. All right. Without a permit. Okay. There is such thing as guerrilla photography. As long as somebody is holding the light, they're not necessarily placing it on the sidewalk. You know, yeah, you can get away with that. But often than not, you know, you need some kind of permit. So anyhow, just be aware of that. All right. What kinds of questions do you guys got? I know Bob had a couple of questions early on. I asked him to hold off and wait until the group was together. So maybe we can start with Bob.
Just real quick, because it might affect your recording. On the screen that you're broadcasting, we're seeing your OBS window.
Yes. Yeah. That way people can see who's talking. And that's the Zoom window. That's the whatchamacallit, that's the Brady Bunch grid.
But in addition to the Brady Bunch grid, the right-hand third of the screen,
I'm going to talk.
taken up by your OBS window, which has never been the case before.
Really?
I changed my view. I clicked on Duck himself, and it went away.
Somebody just fixed it.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's very strange. Let me see. It's back? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I pinned Duck, and then when I pinned Duck, it went away.
Yeah, I have it so that you don't have to pin my screen. It should be so.
Maybe pinning your screen caused the problem because I pinned yours.
Yeah, because I'm sharing the desk. I'm sharing my screen. All right, to kind of circumvent. All right, how's that? A little better? Okay. Well, I'm still learning stuff about this friggin' program. It seems to have its little set of glitches. So as long as it's cleared up now. All right. So anyhow, Bob said he had a question. So
Yeah, I had a question. Whereas if I'm shooting raw, I always have to sharpen it up a little bit. But if it's shooting jaw, JPEG raw is pretty good. I don't know what's going on.
That's by design.
It is.
The raw image doesn't look sharp at all, and the JPEG is an embedded JPEG into the raw anyway. It's slightly processed by the camera.
Oh, okay.
So I believe that's by design.
There's nothing wrong with that. The other problem I had was shooting some boxes around my backyard. I didn't want to go outside. I tried to shoot through the glass with autofocus, no good. I tried to, even with the manual focus, it wasn't that great. I just didn't want to open the door up and scare them off, so that's why I was shooting through the glass.
right.
Here again, when I'm shooting all my out backyard birds and so forth like that on all my feeders, I've got to use manual because the glass itself, I'm shooting through 2 panes of insulated glass, and the resulting image is not as sharp as if I was outside taking the shots of the birds. So I mean, the glass has something to do with it.
That's what I'm learning.
Yeah.
So I learned the hard way.
So the thing with the JPEG versus RAW, one, you have to understand that the RAW file is, as the name implies, it's raw information. There's absolutely no processing to it. All right. So, in part of the processing that you do in your post editing is often you will do some kind of sharpening effect to it, whether it's sharpening for the screen or sharpening it for print or whatever. Okay. The other thing that tends to happen in editing is that a lot of people tend to boost the contrast, which makes it appear a little bit sharper as well. So as Alan mentioned, when you are shooting JPEG, what's happening is the camera is doing a lot of processing to that image for you, and it's applying a certain level of sharpening and a certain level of contrast automatically for you, so that when you see it, you're seeing the results of that processing. So it all depends on what it is that you like. Me personally, I prefer to edit my own images, so I shoot strictly raw, and I will process my own images and sharpen them the way I like to sharpen them. So that might be something to consider.
Well, it's not a problem as long as I know I'm going to sharpen it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at the back of the camera, it doesn't look sharp because when you magnify it up, it doesn't look sharp at all. So that's normal, no problem.
Oh yeah, well if
shoot raw.
Yeah, if
the back of the camera is a JPEG, isn't it?
yes, if you're looking at the back of the, you have to understand you can't get a true representation of your image from the back of your camera.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're taking, let's take for instance, your camera shoots at 21 megapixels. You're taking a 5,000 plus image and you're compressing it down to a small little image that may be a 300, 400 pixels wide. So it's taking all that data and compressing it down. And in that compression, things are going to look sharper. Things are going to look more contrasty than they really are. All right. So it's hard to judge by that preview on the back of your camera. That preview will always lie to you. Always. Okay. So just be aware of that. Okay. The true nature of your photo will only be apparent when you open it up full screen. All right.
Okay.
Now, as far as shooting through glass, like Alan said, yes, a lot of cameras may have issues focusing depending on the type of focusing that your camera does. All right. A lot of the times it may be like phase detection or contrast detection, and think of it as a series of either horizontal, vertical, or crosses, depending on how your camera system's designed. What it does is these areas that are used for focusing is going to look for contrast between edges. And it uses that contrast in order to focus properly. All right, so if one thing you can try is if your lens is having a hard time focusing, if you find that the lens is doing that hunting, it's going zit, 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 zit back and forth all the time, place your focusing point on an edge, hopefully something that has like a lot of contrast. See, like this part of my shoulder, the black shirt contrasts with the white. All right, if you place a focus point here, it's able to find that edge, and it uses that contrast to establish focus. If you're focusing on a face, pick a point maybe on the eye or on the frames, anything that has, a good amount of contrast. It'll help you, it'll help the lens find that focus. Now, when it comes through shooting through glass, like Alan mentioned, you have the added difficulties of shooting through typically two additional pieces of glass. And depending on your distance from that glass, you could be picking up glare. And any glare or reflection back into the lens is going to throw that focus off, because while our eyes attached to a thinking brain knows that it's a piece of glass and we can look past that glare or past that reflection into the outdoors, you got to understand that the camera is dumb. It just sees, oh, there's something there. Maybe he wants me to focus on that instead of, you know, what you really want to focus on. So shooting through glass presents its own problems. One of the things that I do is I will put my lens right. I should probably have my camera here. I'll put my lens right up against the glass to minimize that reflection. Okay, if there's still a lot of reflection, I might. I usually wear a cowboy hat. I'll take my hat off and I'll use it as a shield, a light shield. All right, to cast that area of glass into shadow, so it minimizes any glare, it minimizes any reflection, and it makes the lens be able to focus through that glass a lot easier, because it's not detecting that contrast in front of it. All right.
That's good as long as you're photographing flowers.
Yeah, okay. Granted, yes. Yeah, if right. But you know, but the thing is, if you're shooting in your own backyard, all right, you know, after a while you get the experience and you know that you're going to be within a certain focal range, and then just flip the camera to manual focus and, you know, kind of use that like Alan does, because you're not really going to be doing a lot of you know, heavy duty focusing, because everything's kind of like right there in that area, you know, and just a slight adjustment and everything will be in focus. So but hopefully that that gives you a few tips to work on.
When I take pictures of people, ever, yeah, usually I try to aim for the eye. If I can't, then the face. If I can't do the face, then the body.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people talk about everything should be tagged, but most people I take pictures are over 55. So maybe we don't want tag. I'm not kidding. Especially women.
Yeah. Well, true enough. It's funny because back in the day, manufacturers used to make portrait lenses with a soft focus. They were purposely built. Yeah, you know. Yeah, soft focus filters that you can apply to the top of it, you know, that just kind of, just enough of a blur to soften the wrinkles without, you know, yeah. So nowadays, everything seems to be tack sharp. And of course, the new cameras have the face detection or the eye detection.
Yeah.
You don't even have to worry about it. You just aim the camera in a general direction. The camera says, oh, there's a face there. There's the eye. Let me focus on that, you know? So they're getting smarter and smarter. But it seems the smarter they get, the dumber the technology becomes, you know? I don't know. So, but some good questions there, Bob. Appreciate that. Who else got a questions that we can help you out with? Anybody?
Kind of expanding on the sharpening question. When I take pictures, I import them into Lightroom in the standard light. I'm setting out 40% or 40 on the sharpening. I do my tweaking in Lightroom. Send a picture to Photoshop, do my adjustments, and I'll do some sharpening with a high pass. I've got an action that I built, and I'll sharpen the eyes and maybe the lips and eyelashes if I'm doing a portrait. I send it back to Lightroom. Now, to export, Lightroom's got this setting on output sharpening. But you've got to choose whether you're going to sharpen for the screen or sharpen for matte paper or for glossy paper. If you're delivering a file to a customer, what do you choose? Because you don't know what they're going to do with it. And how different are those settings?
I export without sharpening.
Yeah,
Sharpening's already done.
I was just going to say that if you're sharpening in Photoshop, why are you sharpening even more in Lightroom after the fact?
Only because, to be honest, and I almost am embarrassed to admit this, but I'll do my localized sharpening of the eyes and the eyebrows, that kind of thing. And I played with that output sharpening in Lightroom only because Matt Kozlowski and Scott Kelby and Aaron Nason, people like that just automatically have an output sharpening setting, and that's why I'm struggling. I don't know what the benefit is. It seems like it's maybe superfluous, and even if you do, because of the way Lightroom has it set, you have to choose between sharpening for the screen or sharpening for paper in a print.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what the technical differences are. I sharpen everything for the screen because 90% of the stuff is going to be, viewed through the screen. And
that's what I'm doing. So when you export out of Lightroom, you leave it output sharpening for screen.
Yeah, and I keep it to standard, which is it really doesn't do a noticeable amount of sharpening, in my opinion. Yeah, or turn it off. Don't do any sharpening in Lightroom, and when you spit it out, I bet you when you look at it, you're probably not going to see that big of a difference.
Exactly. I've done both.
You know what? And in the end, a lot of people will never be able to say, "Oh, you didn't sharpen that, did you?" Most people probably won't even care. So I wouldn't sweat it. The only time I would worry about that is if you look at the output and you see a noticeable moire effect. All right. Do you know what a moire effect is?
Yes.
Okay. If you see a noticeable moire effect, that's a good indication that you've over sharpened it. And at that point, back it off. All right. But otherwise, nobody's ever going to really notice it. Okay. Actually, I just occurred to me one other situation that you may want to turn it off is if you're shooting at high ISO and then aggressively do a lot of noise reduction. Sharpening will kind of accentuate the noise a little bit more. So if you shoot high ISO, maybe turn that sharpening off. So otherwise, I don't think people will notice. So, or if you do portraits, turn it off. Like Bill said, give it a softer look. Right? You don't want to be accentuating any wrinkles.
Well, in my case, a lot of times, like I use Lightroom because people give me photos and they want me to upload to Meetup. What people do, hiking group. So I am making the pictures smaller anyways.
Yes.
Making them 1024 wide. Meetup has gotten horribly tougher to upload a batch anymore, even though the menu is there to upload a batch. It's virtually impossible to do it. So you have to upload one at a time, and it takes a long time, and it's really gotten horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave up on Meetup.
I think it's a matter of time before that company goes out of business.
Yeah, and they're killing themselves. But
yeah.
That's my opinion. Yeah. No, I like being able to batch process a lot of images through Lightroom.
That's what I do too. I sizing and
yeah.
and there are a couple of things I do with batch with Lightroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just did a pretty big 3-day job. So I used Lightroom. Oh, there goes my screen. What the heck?
Yeah, I know.
Here I thought I was gonna lick the problem, and it's doing it again. Frustrating. And I think it's Zoom. I don't think it's OBS, because OBS is just channeling the signal out. So it's got to be Zoom. But anyhow, just did a big 3-day job, and Lightroom played a major role because it allowed me to batch rename a bunch of images, and then I took the entire shoot, which was 300 and some odd images, all in one lump chunk, batched them out to the appropriate size with the appropriate naming conventions in the correct folder structure, in order to send it off to the client, you know. And if it wasn't for Lightroom,
That's how I do it.
yeah,
That's how I do it too.
yeah, it literally took me 15 minutes for all that batching, where, you know, if I had to do it manually, it would have been hours. You know,
That's why I started learning Lightroom, because these two guys who run the group said, "Hey, can you do our photos?" And it's like, well, I'm not going to actually edit them, cameras, and they take a lot of pictures, and it's like, well, let's see if I can do these things in batch. Yeah, yeah, import, export, and with the export, yeah, this is what I want. Name it to Charlie Dash, and do you want sequence number? Yes,
Yep.
I do want.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I did. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's, I know years ago, somebody had asked me if there was a way of attaching a scanner to Lightroom, and lo and behold, I was surprised to find out that, yeah, you can actually hook up a barcode scanner, and be able to scan, you know, a barcode and import the data that scanner reads into Lightroom, you know. So it was surprising that it had this ability, you know.
You
School
did
photographers.
right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, somebody.
Oh, I was,
Okay.
yeah, I was just gonna say that school photographers that batch a lot of kids in a day, you know, that need a certain amount of automation. That's what it was built for, basically. So
The one thing you showed, I don't know where you showed it, was online. I seem to remember you doing it in a row. You showed, yeah, you did this at Milford Photo. You showed how to tether you using Lightroom.
tether what?
How to tether, yeah, using Lightroom for tethering.
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. I couldn't shoot product without it. And in the latest edition, they've actually added the live view to their tethering capabilities, which I am so happy. Which I got a chance to play with on this past job. I had to take a bunch of flat lays, and I put my camera up high, shooting straight down, you know. So I put it in, I threw it into live view. I'm able to arrange things, turn the live view off, and take my shots. So
When you tether, do you tether wirelessly?
no, no, I tether with a cable. You can tether, you can tether wirelessly, but one, I don't have that equipment, and I really don't want to invest in that equipment because it really doesn't benefit me any. But I have worked with photographers who tether wirelessly, and I find that the delay it's just too aggravating for me. And then if the wireless tether disconnects, it's a pain in the ass. It really is. So I'd rather just, hook in a wire and I don't have to worry about it. And
somebody tripped.
Well, yeah, you have to be aware of your surroundings. I tether in a studio environment, so most of the time it's just me, myself, and I. If I am working with somebody, they are very well aware of the hookup, and I usually put it where the wire really isn't in the way. I will set up my my computer very close to the camera, and usually I'll have the camera on. I'll show you. I'll have the camera on a camera stand, and then right off the side will be the computer. So usually the cord is not too much in the way of people tripping over it. Okay. So yeah, you just got to be aware. All right. Either that or get some, if you know that the wire has to cross an area where there's going to be people walking, see if you can find a little area rug and just throw it over the wires. That way nobody will trip on them. Or tape them down. A lot of people will take gaffer's tape and tape them down. But gaffer's tape is expensive, so get a little area rug and just throw it over the wires. So, cool. Any other questions? You guys got to have questions. Come on.
You've got a question in chat.
I do
I got a question in the chat.
have a question, but I want other guests to have a question.
Yes, you have a question in chat.
Let's see. Where is my chat here?
I can read it to you if you want.
Oh, there's my chat. I usually don't monitor the chat. All right, I have the chat. I just opened the chat. Is that affecting the feed in any way?
It did affect the feed.
It did?
Yeah, it paused it. At least it paused it
Oh, yeah. Okay.
here.
All right. So Linda has a question. A question is on still life. I noticed most still life has a soft cloth in it. I have such an issue with backdrop wrinkles, folded, etc. Just looking cheap. I bought vinyl, velour, and painted canvas. Any suggestions would be appreciated. All right. Sorry, the audio isn't working. No problem, Linda. Yeah, you know what? Background wrinkles are a bane in a lot of photographers' butts behinds, I actually, in my studio, I have a small little steam iron to work out those wrinkles. All right. However, if you find that you're having a hard time getting rid of them, part of our job as a photographer is to problem solve. If we can't get rid of the wrinkles, embrace the wrinkles, and maybe add some folds into the cloth in order to kind of camouflage them a little bit. That's one thing that you can do. The other thing is off frame. Get something to pull it taut. If you need the material to be taut, get some stands and some clamps, and clamp the sides of the cloth in order to make it a little bit taut, and that usually flattens out a lot of the wrinkles from like folds. Okay, or you can do what I did. I had this one backdrop, a white backdrop that was notorious for showing all kinds of wrinkles. So now whenever I store it, the first thing I do is I twist it into a snake. And then I take that snake and I twist it. And every time I twist it, it gets smaller and smaller until it gets to a compact size that I can pack it away. So now when I open it, all you see is wrinkle. All right. But the thing is, the wrinkles are everywhere and it creates a texture. So I have a background texture of wrinkled fabric. So I no longer have that straight like grid from where the fabric was folded. All right. It got rid of those wrinkles, which just were annoying to me, and I replaced it with a nice textured background. So again, it's just about problem solving. All right. But yeah, if you can't get rid of it, use alternatives. You said vinyl. Okay. Vinyl's great. I love vinyl backdrops, not only because they look good, but they also clean up really, really well. I tend to use vinyl drops when I'm shooting food, because if I spill anything, it's very easy to wipe away, But it also, what I found, it depends on the type of material for your background. Some materials they hold on to the creases a lot longer than others, so. All right, so you said you love the wrinkles idea. Yeah, that was my solution. You know what? And it worked. I don't have to worry about those fold lines at all. So
I went to one photo shoot that you ran in Oakville a lot of years ago, and you told us to wrinkle it, not to fold it, and it looked good wrinkled.
Yeah,
the background looked good, and it gave it a little texture.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah.
I went for training for a job that I ended up not doing. It would involve a lot of traveling and low pay and a very low amount of hotel allowance that would pay for things. On that job, they said they had, with each kit, they had a steam wand, a handheld steam wand to steam the background before putting it as you put it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a couple of photographers that have those steam wands. They're awkward to use.
Yes.
And in my opinion, they work good on light wrinkles. They don't work good on those heavy fold, the heavy creased wrinkles that are caused by a deep fold. They don't work well on those. That's where you really need to break out that heavy duty iron and just iron the heck out of it with a hot steam iron.
I like your idea best to just wrinkle everything.
Yeah.
Because it gives it a little bit of a textured background instead.
Yeah, but again, it depends on what you're photographing. If I'm doing a table setting, and I need a tablecloth, I will spend a good 20 minutes ironing that cloth before I use it. Just because I can't have any wrinkles in it. It's a pain in the ass, but it's something that has to be done.
Linda just said she usually irons with water.
With water, yes, absolutely. You need that steam to loosen up those fabrics and work out those wrinkles. All right. And typically, for tabletop stuff, I don't know about you, Linda, but I have a variety of different types of cloths, and I tend to buy them larger than what I need. So I will usually just iron the small little area that I need in the photograph, and everything else I don't bother because nobody's ever going to see it. So I'm not going to spend that extra time ironing the whole thing if I only need a small section of that cloth. All right. Any painting canvas to give texture to canvas? Mine wrinkle when I put them back. Canvas, depending on the weight and how they're painted, it's better to roll them than to fold them. You can do a lot of damage to a canvas backdrop if you fold them. All right, especially if they're like a hand painted backdrop. You know, I don't know if you have the room to roll them. Right, yours wrinkle when you put them back up. How do you store those? Do you store them folded or do you store them rolled? Go ahead and type that into the chat. Behind the couch, yeah. Yeah, but are they rolled? Do you keep them on a roll? No folding. Okay, good. Yeah. Canvas backdrops. The heavier the canvas, I think the easier it is to maintain. You know, so you get like a number 12 canvas, which is, you know, it's got some stiffness to it and some weight to it. They don't wrinkle as easily. All right. Now, the one thing you have to understand with canvas backdrops, especially when they're the heavier one, when you put them up, when you first put them up, they need to relax a little bit. Because they've been on that roll. All right. So there's a certain amount of memory to these cloth fabrics. All right. So when you first unroll them, let them hang. All right. What I'll normally do is I'll get like a couple of A clamps and I'll clamp them to the bottom so that the clamps add that extra little bit of weight in order for them to now hang a little bit smoother. Okay. And I find that if you place them onto that roll properly, so that they're not skewed or anything, they will generally roll up fairly evenly. Now, when you unroll them and hang them, you may get the occasional, I won't say wrinkle, but maybe like a slight fold. What I find is that oftentimes when you actually take a photograph, it tends to disappear. When it really shows up is if you put your light too much at an angle to the backdrop where it's actually cutting across the surface and creating a shadow. And that shadow is going to make that wrinkle or that fold really pop out. So if you can't quite work them all out, all right, again, you can always go back to putting a couple of light stands on the sides and using the clips to kind of pull them this way, all right? But you have to be careful how you pull them this way, because then you can start, you know, introducing additional folds and wrinkles that weren't there, all right? But if you can stretch them out a little bit, it usually flattens out, and then just watch your lighting. Right? You want the lighting a little bit more flat on your background in order to avoid lighting the wrinkles. So hopefully that answered some of your questions and gave you some tips. All right, anybody else? Yes, smiling.
Else.
Okay. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. I actually want to give my hand a try at painting my own backdrops. So I painted one as a test it came out pretty decent. I don't know if you guys saw the photo of the young girl, kind of like in the clown makeup, against a white and red striped background. I painted that background. It literally took me like half an hour, 45 minutes for the whole thing. It was, and then a lot of splattering with black, watered down black paint to give it kind of like a grunge look. And it came out pretty good. And that was painted on an old bed sheet, you know? But yeah, I'm gonna give a try at actually painting an actual canvas one, kind of like in the old master style, with that faux vignette in the center, where it's a little bit lighter in the center and it gets darker towards the edges. I love the look of those old classic canvas backdrops, and I want to make my own.
You know what somebody did with a play?
With a what?
Play once. This was in North Haven High School. What somebody did once is, you know those mats that you exercise on, you put on the floor and you exercise?
The like the foam ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She put a whole bunch of them together, made a backdrop, and painted them to look like a seacoast or some sort of a background that you see at the.
Are you talking about the foam ones that like interlock like puzzle pieces?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, no, not the ones that lock. You know, they're sort of straight. You lie on them and you exercise.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So the more the rectangular ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What did she do about the seams?
I don't know what she did with the seams. She made them close together, but she didn't. She put them up vertically, and I don't know what she did to hold them all together.
Probably taped on the back, I would assume.
Probably.
That's kind of an expensive way of creating a backdrop.
Yeah. But this was a play. This was a high school play, and it was probably extra pieces of.
Oh, okay.
Stuff.
All right.
You know, it could have been material that they threw out that wasn't good enough for exercising anymore. It could go on another step. But I like what you said about vinyl, because if you watch a press conference by a coach, you will see vinyl behind.
Yeah.
Say Dunkin' Donuts, other type of sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wanted. We never had the money to do it at ATV. I always wanted to get 2 sets of those. One when we do election night. One that goes to Republican headquarters, one that goes to Democratic headquarters, right. So you don't have this horrible background of a horrible restaurant.
Yeah, those digitally printed backdrops can be quite pricey, especially if you go for the bigger ones. So yeah, that's and even the canvas ones, the better made ones. The ones that, especially if they're hand painted, I mean, you're looking at anywhere from $500 to $1,000 for a 6x9 drop. I don't have that kind of expendable cash to spend on something that I will hardly use, if at all, because I'm not really a people photographer, but I will spend $50 on some paint and $30 on a piece of canvas and experiment,
What I've decided with all this stuff about backgrounds, I have decided for the wall here, instead of painting it, make it something that's temporary. I'm going to go to Walmart or whatever, and I'm going to buy cloth, rolls of cloth. I'm going to put a blue cloth back here. I'm going to nail it up here so I can put it up and take it down, whatever. I think that might make it good back.
A blue cloth? Why blue?
Blue cloth, yes.
Just
like blue's my favorite. Blue is my favorite color.
Oh, okay, all right.
Or do you think black would be better?
No. I mean, it's personal choice. um, one thing. All right, so right behind me, I know you guys can't see it. It looks like it's my studio, but this is actually a green screen. All right, and I paid. I think it was with shipping and everything, it was like under $30 for it, and it's large 10 by 20. Yeah, on Amazon. Go figure. And it does a great job. But you know, uh, rather than spending what is it, $5 a yard for 96, what's the standard, 56-inch wide fabric? The other thing you can do is, visit the Goodwill stores. A lot of Goodwill stores will have a section just on bedding. And that's where I got it's a queen size piece of a sheet that I used as, I picked it up for $5, and I used that as my experiment for that backdrop. But the thing is, you can buy them in a lot of colors. I mean, obviously, you have to work with what they have available in stock. But if all you need is, a simple piece of cloth to put behind you, $5 for a king or queen size top sheet, or even go to Walmart, and what is it, $13-15 for a top sheet, king size, because you only need from here to here. All right, and that's what, maybe, all right, this is 6 feet right here. Okay, you can very easily pin a bed sheet up behind you. All right, now,
can you buy a top sheet, Joan,
I'm sorry, what?
Can you buy a top sheet by itself?
That's a good question.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can, but you know what? A set of sheets, king size sheets, aren't that expensive.
Right.
And their king size is what, 86 inches, I think. 86 inches.
So, queen is like 90.
Oh, queen's 90.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So king's got to be 100 something then. Oh, Christ's sakes, yeah, that's plenty of room. And it'll save you money. So just don't get, something too flowery.
No. Maybe I can find a green sheet and there's my green wall.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than having the guy come in here and paint just one wall.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you can always get some inexpensive LED lights, and throw them a little bit off frame to light the corners and give, a little bit of wash of color, especially if you get the LEDs that you can control what color they are.
Okay.
So if you have, like, for example, if you get a blue, let's say you get a dark blue sheet, you can put a light blue light directly behind you to kind of give you a little bit of a light blue vignette right behind where you sit, just with a light.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
no problem.
I have another question.
Go for
it. When I was in my old place, I had an overhead light. And whether I was editing during the day or at night, it didn't matter because the light was basically the same all the time.
Right.
I have a setup here where instead of having my desk against the wall and always looking at a wall all the time, I have it where my desk is looking out at
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
the room and looking out into a window there. And I have a light there. I have not calibrated my monitor yet because I don't know what lighting I want to use for calibrating my monitor. What time of day I'm going to do my work. I mean, I could say, okay, I'll do everything during daylight. But if I have an assignment and I can't do something till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, it depends on how critical the editing is.
Well, most of my editing is not critical, and I go by the histogram most of the time anyway.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if the one thing I will say is having all that light hitting you in your face as you're editing will affect your edits. All right. Because your eyes are getting used to all that very bright light hitting you in the face. And what I find is a lot of people will adjust the contrast, and they'll adjust the brightness on the screen in order to I don't want to use the word calibrate, but in order to balance the view on the screen with all the excess light that's coming around you. All right, and that's going to really affect your editing to the point where, you know, if I've seen people who post images that always look like they're underexposed. All right, and they'll say, you know, it looked great on my computer, and as soon as I upload it, it looks underexposed, blah, 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 blah. And that's because they're also looking at it probably at either a different computer or a different time of day, all right? And they don't realize that when they are editing, that edit is being influenced by all that excess light. And what looks like normal under those conditions looks abnormal when it's in a more neutral or normal situation. So I would suggest you normalize your environment as best you can. And one thing that you can do is either get curtains, either light blocking curtains, or you know, something that is going to minimize all that bright light coming at you. Now, I know it's nice to be able to, you know, step away from the screen, kind of rub your eyes and look out the window and see nature every once in a while. But if it's going to affect your editing, you know, you might want to put some limits on yourself as well. So close the shades, you know, have your monitor calibrated for that lower light. You know, maybe do editing for about an hour, then step away from your screen, which is always suggested anyways, but step away from your screen, you know, open the curtains, let your eyes, you know, rest, then come, you know, close the curtains, come back to your editing with a fresh set of eyes, as they say, and go back to work. You know, rather than trying to fight this, you know, it's brighter in the day, darker at night, you know,
also the whatever
bouncing. Yeah, go ahead.
The picture's going to be viewed on, what kind of device is going to be viewed on, going to change it as well.
The problem I've had, Alan, is, you know, it's funny, Duck, that you said people say it's too dark. In competition, my photos look too light as far as I'm concerned. I've done editing on my computer. It looks good to me, looks great to me. And at the camera club meeting, when it comes up on the screen, I'll say to myself, that sucks.
Okay. All right, good. Because I've noticed these club competitions are a point of contention with me.
Same here, Doug. Same here. Same
All right.
here.
What I want you all right. I want you to analyze in your head. You don't have to, you know, when you are editing your image, all right, pick one of the images that you recently did for competition. All right. You're editing it in your space. What was the lighting condition when you edited that image? All right. And then compare it to the lighting situation during the competition. Now, I've been at a couple of these judgings, and they have all the room lights off, and the only thing you see is that monitor light, which is ridiculous. Yes, I can understand why they do it, because it allows people, in this larger room to be able to view it and enjoy it. Okay. But is it reality? All right. So this is what I would suggest. If you know what the lighting condition is going to be for the judging, then take the extra effort and edit those images for that lighting condition. All right. And those edits are going to be just for those images that are going to the judges. And then for what you're going to post on Facebook. What?
So in other words, I should probably have no lights on except for my computer monitor.
Correct. So what you're doing is you're setting your environment to match that of the environment that the judges are going to be in. Okay. And it's going to give you that little added extra bonus because your image is going to look proper to their eyes in that lighting condition. Okay. And then, whatever's going on Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever, those you want to edit under more normal lighting conditions. All right. And the nice thing is that, you can make these adjustments right in Lightroom. So even though you may be, using Photoshop to do your editing, bring them in and then export them from there according to the specific lighting situations. That would be my suggestion.
Everything I do now, I save to a PSD file in case something like what you told me. Okay, I've done the edits that I like. I'll do the edits for this type of situation, or I will size it to this type of situation.
Yeah, images that matter. Images that matter. All right, not just, I don't care where they go, but images that matter, like for a competition, something that's going to go for print, you want to edit to their intended use.
Okay.
All right, because you will be maximizing the technology for whatever that use is. So, for example, all right, you understand that the room's going to be a little bit darker, so you know that you don't want to do a lot of heavy contrast, because by darkening the room, it's going to that screen is going to create an artificial amount of contrast to begin with. So you might want to reduce the contrast a little bit, maybe not make your darks that dark so that the shadows aren't getting lost. Okay, you're editing for that situation. Now that same image, you say, well, I also want to print it. That print job is going to have its own requirements, and those blacks may need to be lowered even more so that they're not in the heavy grays, but more a little bit into the lighter dark grays. All right, so that when you print them, they print properly, with the black tones in place to be able to show the tonal differences in the black rather than getting them all washed out because you edit it on a screen and it looked good on the screen because it's backlit. All right, that backlight, you can see all that nice detail. But when you exported it out and actually print it, all right, all that nice detail gets muddied up and lost because the printer can't distinguish between all those fine shades of dark. All right. So that's where you need to, really understand what the image is going to be used for and edit appropriately. Even though it's the same exact image and the overall general look of the image is going to be the same, you're just going to tweak it for whatever output you're using. So hopefully the next competition you'll get a leg up on everybody else because you'll have edited to the room that the judges are in.
Question: if I have lighting, I don't have an overhead light. I wish I did. That's what I prefer in a room. But if I'm editing, like right now, I'm looking at the screen. What you see me looking here is the way I look when I am editing, and I have an. In order, if you notice the lighting's pretty, I have 60 watts, effective 60 watts over there on a lamp, which is basically in front of me. When I'm editing, should I have a lamp behind me instead? And if I do, am I going to get glare on the screen?
Okay. There's a couple considerations with lighting the room you're editing in. All right. You want the light to be as neutral and daylight balanced as possible.
This is daylight, not tungsten.
Okay, good. The more neutral you can make it, the better it is. First of all, on your eyes, all right, and the less influence the color of your lighting is going to have on your editing. Okay. The other consideration is placement. All right, you're working off of a screen that is reflective. It's got a piece of reflective glass. All right, so keeping in mind angle of incidence, angle of reflection, you don't want anything behind you. All right, you want things to the sides. All right, so that you don't get any glare from the reflection.
Okay, yeah, this light is to the side, but it's sort of like I still have light on me.
All right, that's
in this direction. Here I am looking here, and the light isn't there. It's sort of like over there.
Yeah, that's fine. What you want to avoid is light that really hits you straight into your eyes from in front, because now your eyes have to adjust for that brightness, and it's competing with this brightness. Okay, so you're playing kind of a balancing act. All right, that's why I say, if you can put them to the sides, all right, so that they're not coming straight into your eye, and they're not coming straight onto the screen.
If you notice, I pulled my desk back because I'm in a little bit of an alcove here. Mm-hmm. The light's over there, and as I pulled the desk back, not seeing the lamp as much. So let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's around my eyes. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah. If you can get lamps that toss the light upward so that it reflects off the ceiling, you're better off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that goes up the ceiling. It's one light over there. Now I have another lamp here that goes down. It's a table lamp. It goes there. It gives me just a little more light. Mm-hmm. And it's to the side. Probably could put it up to the ceiling, but I don't think that's necessary. Just to give me.
Yeah, I find that if you can get the light. Yeah, I find if you can get the light in your room fairly even, it's a little easier on the eye.
Okay, yeah, I have a very light there, not too light over there. Let me do something. See what happens when I do this. Here we are. Makes it even. Now, how's the lighting on me? No, now I see that lamp, unfortunately.
All right. Well, it doesn't matter what the light looks like on you.
Or even, and it doesn't go into my.
Yeah, that's it. You don't want it going into your eye. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else got any questions? Any other questions?
Just one more question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go for it.
I turned on another lamp there. How's the lighting on me? Any different, better, worse, or?
You're very well lit.
Okay. Okay, good. All right.
All right. But as far as editing, it doesn't matter what the light looks like on you.
Yeah, okay, that's true. That's true. Okay, yeah, I got this better now. I got the table
Yeah.
back further, the lamp. I got light there, and the
Yeah.
dark light is
Yeah, you just don't want any glare off your screen, and you don't want any direct, light into your face. So
Right.
cool. All right, what else can I help you guys with? If no questions, anybody got anything interesting they want to share? What's happening in your worlds?
Trying to prevent COVID. That's what's happening.
Aren't we all? The conversation in my household now is centered around the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. It's the grandkids, we'd love to see them, but they're exposed to who knows what at school. Okay. Our daughter's a nurse in a hospital. She's exposed to all kinds of stuff. So the wife and I are debating whether we even want to spend time with them. We'd love to, but is it worth the risk?
It's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Look, other people, go ahead.
No, I agree. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
We're not seeing my wife's family for Thanksgiving like we normally do.
I'm finding that people are not having their relatives over, or they are not going places. That's what I am finding. I have one friend who is having people over. He's considering having people over. If he does it, he's going to actually serve the food in one room instead of everybody passing the food around. He is going to serve the food. He'll have gloves. He'll have a mask. We'll do it in one room, and people will be separated into different rooms.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I know one person who's invited friends he hasn't seen in a long time. He's invited them over to his house, and they're coming down from Vermont. And I'm thinking, you're nuts. You're friggin' nuts. Why? Why open yourself up to God knows what? So, but as long as you guys are staying safe, that's all that matters. I know photography wise, a lot of the groups haven't been doing a lot of outdoor or a lot of social stuff. Earlier the year, I did a few things with the Hartford group, and we took our precautions, but it's been kind of a weird year for a lot of social activities.
Yeah, at Sunday I did Joe Reardon had a workshop down at Mystic Seaport, so I participated in that. It was just 5 of us. And we were able to social distance, wear masks, and just outdoors most of the time anyway. Mm-hmm. So still doing some of those type of things. Yeah,
it seems the outdoor stuff is a little bit more doable than the indoor stuff. So. But what I got to do is I got to get off my butt and figure out how to get a camera to the studio so that I can do some live workshops out of the studio.
We've been talking about that for 2 months already.
I know. I just, it's when I think I got something licked, something else pops up and just makes me go, what? So I think we got the resolution issue solved, although we're still getting some, hiccuping here with the video. But it doesn't seem like it's as bad as it was last week, or am I wrong?
We'll have to see when you do a Photoshop presentation next.
Yeah, that I mean, it's usually when you're showing your screen when you're in Lightroom or Photoshop that we get the worst problems, right?
Oh, okay. Well, here's Lightroom. All right, and
Over time is better.
yeah, the issue of resolution.
It
You can read the text. Last week the text was legible.
Right, right. Okay, so this one here has a lot of texture on the surface of the image. All these grasses here. All right, and in the trees. Are you guys picking up any of that texture?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And the text is little, but it's more readable, right?
The text will be little on the screen. It's coming to resolution.
Yeah, and
Last week was legible.
yeah, but you know, all right. So here's the situation with the text. My screens are 21-inch screens. So because I'm literally a foot and a half away from them, the text is a good balance between, you know, for real estate purposes, it's a good balance between readability for me when I'm doing my editing and usable space. Now, yes, I understand when it translates across video, you know, your screen, if it's a smaller screen, the resolution is going to change, and that text will now look a little bit smaller. So, you know, it's going to be trying to find that balance. You know, the thing is, do you really need to read all this, or can you just go by what you already know about the program and says, okay, well, you know, I know where that module is. I don't really need to see the label. You know what I mean?
Something like that, no, but some of the things you did last week, you need to be able to read it. It was just a blur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially for like me, who's like fairly new to this, it's like better for me to be able to see exactly where you are.
Okay.
So I can replicate it.
Okay, I gotcha. I gotcha.
And with Photoshop, when you deal with layers, that's one of the things that I was seeing
Let's
last
see.
week. Just we do layers, we need to see what's going on.
Right. Well, let me open up
Honestly,
Photoshop.
I moved it to my larger screen, and I can see it much better over here. So I'll just always put you over here.
there you go. Yeah, so like I said, you know, I'm trying to, you know, fix whatever problems to make it easier for you guys. Obviously there's some things I can't control, like the bandwidth. I know I have a lot of bandwidth here. So why that video stalls every so often I don't understand. It's got to be something with Zoom. It really does, because my signal going out is perfect. You know. Yeah.
Just for ha-has, can you try it without OBS just to see, just to
Okay.
troubleshoot something?
Yeah. Let me. I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Let me switch over to. Oops, wrong one. Give me a second. I'm gonna close OBS. All right, I might go dark a little bit here. Oh, wait a minute. I can't. Let's see. I'm recording, so I can't close. However, oh, I know what I can do. All right, let me go to my. Oh, I don't know if I can actually. I don't think I can, guys, because OBS is recording the session right now. And it's also locked to my virtual webcam. And it's not letting me switch it over. All right, but you know what? That is a good suggestion. I'm gonna have to try. See, and it looks like my feed's hung up. Did my feed hang up on you guys?
I don't know, all I see is Bill.
All you see is Bill?
Yeah, you're dark. No video from you, Chuck.
Yeah, okay. This is, yeah. I broke it. All right.
Then we'll switch this off until next week then. It's a good place to end.
Yeah, so it looks okay. It looks like we're stuck in one screen now. Okay.
Alan, is that a picture that you took?
Yes.
And that eagle's on some sort of
Those are two osprey on a cell tower on Route 5. No, in the Enfield.
Oh, okay, because they also, right where Carl works, they're right behind him. And he's right off Route 5 in Wallingford.
Okay.
So they're duck.
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to figure out how to resolve this, and it's not letting me. Zoom meeting for me is no longer responding. It's still active, obviously, because
I'll see you next week.
I can hear you all. But okay. But yeah, you're right. This might be a good place to end it. Guys, it was a great session. I appreciate you hanging out with me. We had some awesome questions. That's what I like to see. And if you can make it next week, the discussion is going to be all about working with models and how to properly do it without getting into trouble. All right, so hope to see you next week. If not, we'll see you the week after that for our normal Lightroom workshop. And in the interim, if you need to ask any questions, you can always contact me. Yeah.
2 weeks.
I'm sorry, what?
From today is the 5th week. 2 weeks from today is the 5th Monday.
Oh, is it? Okay, all right, then.
Yeah.
All right, so this is one of those months that has the extra week. Well, you know what? Maybe we can do something special. You know, maybe we'll do a Patreon only thing. I have to think of something. Who knows? Stay tuned. I'll let you guys know. And if you have any suggestions, you know, shoot them my way.
Set up here.
Okay, yeah, it's all right.
Good one.
All right, guys, be safe.
Okay.
I don't know if I can even close this out. It's not letting me. It's not letting me access.
You have to do a cold boot.
Yeah, I think so. This is weird. All right, because both Zoom windows are saying not responding.
Oh, Doug, by the way, I have a paid account now, so if you ever need me to host in case I'm
Oh, okay, I appreciate that. Yeah.
happens to you at your end, and then you be a guest.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that.
Alrighty.
All right, guys, stay safe, stay legal, and all that good stuff.
Night, Doc.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do a hard reset here.